Guys, my name is Emma, and today is day 2 of the 7 days of 7 lessons, and today we are going to talk about intellectual property and specifically what Taylor Swift has gone through these past few years. When Taylor Swift was 14, she signed on to Big Machine Records, who produced her first 5 albums. But when she signed a contract with them, she also gave them the rights over her masters of these albums, and she did not have to be told who they were selling the company to if they were ever to sell. Now, what did this end up meaning for her? Big Machine Records was sold to Scooter Braun for $300 million, and now he is the owner of her catalogs. And she has been battling it out with him, trying to buy back the rights to her albums. And she has finally won, and she is going to be re-recording her first 5 albums within the next few years. So, what does this mean for us? How does this affect us? We might not be huge Taylor Swift megastars, creating albums and producing content in that way, but all of us do have ideas, all of us are creative, and a lot of the times, depending on where that idea is created, we may or may not have any rights over it. Now, under copyright, the owner and the creator may not be the same person, which is how it's split in the law. And if you are the owner, then you have all the rights to it. So when we do create ideas, when we create content, when we create something that can be copyrighted or trademarked, we need to understand what is going to happen to it depending on where it's created. Such as if you are at a college, what copyrights do you have to any original research that you create? If you're at work, if you create an original idea, do you get any rights to it? And the truth is, if you are working under an employer and it is within your job description to create something like that, they own the rights to it. And if it makes them a lot of money, you may or may not have any rights to it. They just get to make a lot of money. And if you're at a college, you may not have as many rights as you think you have for creating original research. So, what is my own story with this? I created multiple different ideas in my school, and I loved every single one of them, and I really wanted to do it to help students learn about the majors and learn about what's going on in the world. And a lot of the times, although it was my idea and I created it, I had no rights to it, and I was never compensated or acknowledged that it was my idea. So I had to learn the lesson that sometimes we are just pushed off and not seen as important when it comes to the idea creation, although we came up with the idea, and it just taught me that I needed to be more careful with who I share these ideas with. If an idea is being created and is going to be used, I want to know where it's going and why and who is going to be using it. We need to become more aware of where our ideas are going and to own ownership over what we create, because it is not fair for an artist to not have any rights over their creations, over anyone. And they should be told, and they should be acknowledged, and they should be respected for the work that they do. This has happened to many artists, painters, sculptors all over the world, where they ended up not owning the rights to something that they created. And the human intellect is so wonderful and amazing, and it creates wonderful ideas, and we should be protecting it and ourselves at all costs. If we are going to sign a contract, make sure you understand the contract laws that go along with it. Negotiate to the best of your abilities, and a lot of the times, these huge companies will be like, we'll try to sell the fact that you aren't well known and try to diminish your worth. But this goes back to, you need to know your worth before you just hand over your ideas to someone. Make sure that there's royalties on it. Make sure that there's not a cut and dry price attached to any of your ideas and creation, because you don't know how much is going to be sold, especially if this is your first time. They may be cutting you a much smaller deal than you should be given, and you should always own a part and be getting compensated for a part of the idea that you created. So when it comes to the creations that you come up with, be careful who you share them with. We know we may be trusting of people, but who someone is today may be very different who they are tomorrow, and especially if circumstances and attitudes change towards what is happening. Be careful. Know what your rights are when it comes to property. Know what copywriting means, what it does, and how it can protect you, and how laws actually work, and how contracts should work. Every contract should be going under negotiation, and both parties should not leave happy. That is the sign of a good negotiation. If one person thinks that they got a really good deal out of it, and the other person thinks they got a really good deal out of it, something went wrong and someone is being tricked. Someone is not understanding what's happening. And I know that this is a lot to consider, but if it can happen to Taylor Swift, and this was a contract she signed when she was 14, and now she is 31. She has been battling this for 16 years, not having the rights to her own property over 16 years. And she has the money to battle it out in court. And a lot of the times, we may not have the money to go up against these corporations, these companies, if they take our ideas. So be careful who you share them with. Be aware of your own value. And at the end of the day, something that they could never take from Taylor Swift was the thought process that went behind it. As much as they could steal her albums, they could never steal her new creations, her way that she came up with those thoughts and those ideas. And that is how I feel too. As much as my ideas were taken from me, they could never take that thought process that went into it. And I still have the ability to continue to do that, and I can just take those lessons with me in the future and be more careful of who I share my ideas with and my creations, and to know where I stand with them. So continue to create, continue to imagine a better world, but be wary of where that trust goes, and make sure that it always lies in you, that you trust yourself, that you know what you're doing. Do not leave your fate into somebody else's hands, because somebody else will always fumble the pass, and you need to be your biggest advocate for your rights, for your property, for your ideas, and for being acknowledged for what you've created. So thank you for coming here and joining me for this video. I hope that 2020 ends well for you, and that we start off 2021 with all these lessons and all of this perspective where we can really create that world that we want to see. So until the next video, I hope you have an amazing day.